Throughout the centuries there have been many different kings and queens who in death had a significant tragic tale. Catherine of Valois, for example, was left unburied for over 400 years inside of Westminster Abbey, and people would tamper with her remains. Mary, Queen of Scots, also after her death was exhumed and moved from the place she was initially laid to rest. But across Europe there were many influential and powerful women who ruled in different countries, and one example was Barbara Radziwill. She was a woman who had a very interesting life, but in death her remains were subjected to a strange and shocking ordeal. But what is the story of the horrific treatment of the remains of the Polish queen? Barbara Radziwill was born in December of 1520, and her father was the voivode of Trakai, and her mother was a very noble person also. It's believed that she had a rather settled early life. However, she wasn't necessarily educated in a way that a queen would be. She was not schooled like a princess would be, and she did not learn many languages that were hoped to be useful if she married a European noble or even a prince. She could only speak and write in her native Polish, and she was considered a very beautiful young woman, who was also very charming. She was greatly interested in cosmetics and also fashion, and she often wore heavy lead makeup like many 16th century women would, for example, Elizabeth I. Much of this makeup was, of course, very dangerous, as it was actually lead-based. As she was a prominent member of the nobility, she was offered up to marry Stanisławas Katauskas, who was a member of the Lithuanian nobility. With this, they even had a wedding treaty drawn up. However, the pair married on the 18th of May 1537, and Barbara at the time was around 16 years old. In her dowry there was a significant amount of wealth, and also items such as silver crockery and horses. Their marriage was short-lived though, as after 5 years Barbara's husband died, after a short battle with an illness. However, the marriage did not produce any children. But Barbara was now a catch, and within 6 months of her husband's death she was having an affair with Sigismund Augustus, who was the future king of Poland, and was the Grand Duke of Lithuania. The pair's affair began in 1543, but Sigismund was married to Elizabeth of Austria. The pair would travel to Vilnius, where Barbara lived with her mother. However, the next year Sigismund's wife died from complications following a seizure. After this, the Prince of Poland and Barbara Radziwill would spend a lot of time together, and it's believed that they were both in love. There were many rumours from the royal court about the pair, and they would go together hunting. Gossip continued, and it's believed that Sigismund even had a tunnel made to Barbara's apartments from the royal palace, so in the evening the pair could meet together in secret and continue their affair. At the time, many people wanted the prince to marry another woman, be it a European princess, to secure alliances for Poland and to unite European dynasties. However, Barbara and Sigismund were in love, and in 1547 they married in secret. Now their wedding took place at the end of July 1547, and at the start of August 1547, and the wedding was kept quiet, as it's believed that Barbara may have been pregnant at the time. But this child did not live, and Sigismund then told his parents about their marriage. This did not go down well at all, and the royal family were enraged. Many people considered Barbara to have been a harlot and nothing more than a woman that Sigismund slept with, and they did not take into account that Barbara and Sigismund were in love. Some accused her of being a witch, and they accused her of using sorcery and potions to seduce the prince and to trap him. But when his father died, there were many people who said that Sigismund, the next king, should leave his wife. However, the new Sigismund II remained with Barbara, and the royal couple moved into the royal palaces, and they lived a very lavish lifestyle, and Barbara got a huge amount of land and jewellery, along with royal palaces. However, she was a queen now, who was not interested in politics. But the Radziwill family then sought to secure power and further wealth for their family. They wanted Barbara to be coronated and to be formally recognised as the Queen of Poland, not just the wife of the king. The king also wanted this, and Sigismund made sure that Barbara should be the Queen of Poland. This went ahead, and she was crowned Queen of Poland on the 7th of December 1550, which did attract criticism. However, her reign as queen was short-lived. When she married the Polish king, she was suffering with her health, and she was often very sick, and she had problems with her stomach and also gallstones. But after the coronation, things got even worse for her. She had a fever and also lost her appetite. The stomach pain got much worse, and her stomach had a lump in it which was filled with pus and likely contributed to blood poisoning. But the king was seeing his new wife dying and getting sicker each day, and Sigismund asked the best doctors in the land to treat her. But despite a short recovery, she went downhill yet again. As things continued, her health continued to deteriorate, and the king himself was waiting on his dying wife. Barbara now began to stink of pus, and she was suffering with diarrhoea and sickness. But on the 8th of May 1551, in Krakow, Barbara Radziwill, the Queen of Poland, died in her bed. She insisted that she should be buried back in Vilnius, and that her body should be taken to the cathedral, and she was actually buried next to Sigismund's first wife that had died. However, the king was gutted and distraught, and he walked a large part of the journey to the cathedral following her coffin on foot. But after her death, he wore mourning black and became much more serious, shunning the partying life and lavish life. Now, it is not known for certain what killed Barbara, but some historians have said that it was ovarian cancer or cervical cancer. But at the time, many dissenters claimed that she had suffered from syphilis. But this was not the end of her story, as her remains would be uncovered and found almost 400 years after her death. In 1931, the remains of Barbara, the Queen of Poland, emerged and were found. Following her death on the journey from Krakow to Vilnius, her remains had been covered in some strange substance to help preserve them during the long summer days travelling. Her body was coated in a mix of ash and burned lime to protect her remains, and the wooden coffin she had been placed inside of had rotted in the 400 years since her death. But the lime that covered her body had formed a protective shell, and with this her remains were preserved well by the standards of 4 centuries' worth of decay. Now, the people who discovered her remains were horrified and shocked, and Barbara's remains were covered in her jewellery, and on top of her head was a silver gilded crown, and in her arms was a silver sceptre, along with a golden orb and a cross which was given to her from the king, her husband. These artefacts were amazingly preserved, but during the deadliest conflict in human history, they could not escape the clutches of the Nazis. Now, as the Second World War broke out, Vilnius was captured and seized by the Nazis, and they treated the civilians there terribly. They set up 2 ghettos for the huge Jewish population there, and the Nazis looted and savaged Jewish homes, stealing art and wealth. But some of Barbara's jewellery and artefacts that she had been buried with and had been in her tomb were stolen and went missing. It's believed that these were taken by the Nazis who broke into her tomb to take these riches. But when her remains were found and discovered, it was checked and repaired by the professors in a nearby university. They shockingly glued some of her remains together, and they fixed some of her skeleton. Following this, they worked out that she was 5 foot 3 inches tall and had white and straight teeth, as well as a slim body and a narrow face. But it was said that she had some strange defects, including an extra rib. She also had signs of rickets, and her remains were then hidden away again because of the Second World War. They were moved to a crypt under the Chapel of St. Casimir, and they were left there until 2001. But then more work took place on her remains, and experts reconstructed her face to see what she would have looked like. Barbara Radziwill was a queen who was very controversial in the 16th century, and in Poland a number of people did not want her on the throne as queen. But she was a woman who captured the heart of the Polish king, but she suffered greatly in her final days. She died a very painful death, and then her remains were looted and were taken by the Nazis, and much of the wealth inside of her coffin that she was buried with then disappeared during the German occupation of Vilnius. What was shocking was that her remains were broken into, and her coffin was looted in the last century, despite the fact she had died in the 16th century. The afterlife of Barbara Radziwill was a shocking one. Thank you for watching, and to support, please subscribe to Her Remarkable History. Thank you.